Oh, how exciting. So, welcome. I am Alison Reiner. I'm a relationship coach and I teach sensitive men and women to have successful relationships. And today I'm talking about making that shift from defensive communication all the way through to open dialogue and how important it is. And I can't really understand what's happening here. And I don't know if it's the light, but I'm looking at myself and I look like I haven't been to bed for days. And I can assure you, I'm not a new moon kind of girl, so I sleep like a baby. I've slept so well, but never mind. This is all new to me. The last time I tried a Be Live broadcast, I seemed to have, no, I've got no viewers, it tells me up at the top. I managed to interview myself, which was bizarre. Today, at least, there's only one of me talking to me, and I think I'm getting there. So I'll wait for a couple of minutes just to see if anybody does turn up. It would be nice to have somebody here. I've got a few questions anyway, and this will be popped into the group. Well, I think it's shared into the group anyway when we're finished, and you'll be able to listen, watch, and ask questions at leisure. It's something that I want to do a lot more regularly is be interactive in the group to understand what the needs are in the group, what your needs are, what you'd like from me, what you'd like from each other. Because let's be honest, I'm trying to create a community here. I can give so much, but you know, I work, I have clients, I have a life outside the group, and I can see that there is such a lot of interaction already beginning in the group. A lot of people who are willing to put their necks out and offer help, offer a kind word, or even ask for help. So, you know, I really want to build that community that we have going. So it looks like I might be talking to myself. So welcome to anybody that's watching this on replay. Let me see what it's saying. I've got comment on Facebook as Alison, right? Oh no, I don't want to comment and I don't want to add an agenda. So I'm moving this backwards and forwards, which is really unprofessional of me, but never mind. Where shall we start? A few people did ask some questions on communication. Now it's a biggie. I know that, you know, it's the one area that everybody struggles with in the relationship at some point or another. And for me, it's not a breakdown in communication. That's not that's the symptom, if you like. The symptom of an underlying issue is the breakdown in communication. Now that breakdown can manifest itself in many ways. It can manifest itself in, you know, the silent treatment, or, you know, where you just withdraw and you don't have those conversations anymore. Everything becomes very superficial. Everything becomes about, you know, what, you know, the weather or what the kids need for lunch or what you should do next holiday or whatever, but not actually about the nitty-gritty of what makes the relationship work. What do you two need to do to make this successful? Or it can be, you know, it can go to the other extreme. There can be screaming, there can be shouting, there can be swear words flying, there can be accusations flying, fingers pointed. And, you know, and neither of those are particularly helpful. And neither of those make for, you know, for a great situation at home. It's, you know, if you're not looking forward to coming home in the evening after a hard day in the office or wherever you happen to be, the play park with the kids, then why on earth would your partner feel any different? So, you know, whatever your situation, they're going to feel exactly the same way. So don't believe for a second that you're the only one that's feeling this, that you're the only one that's suffering in the relationship. You're both unhappy. And, you know, he may not be saying anything. He may not be listening to you. He may be, you know, he may not even be present at home. He may have found a million other things to do rather than come and sit on that sofa with you and watch television and be connected in some way. However, for me, as I say, the most important thing that I've learned it from my own personal experience, and I see it time and time again, is that it's not a breakdown in communication. It's a breakdown in connection. You know, a connection between the couple, the man, the wife, the partners, whatever you want to to call it, that link that keeps you putting that person at the top of the list has been broken, and you need to recreate that. So there are, very, very simple steps that you can put in place to recreate that level of intimacy, if you like. We call it intimacy, and I don't mean sexual intimacy, though of course that's part of it, because let's be honest, when you're not happy at home, then you're not particularly amorous. It's not that it starts to, that side of things start to suffer as well. So I'm just going to put this in front of me because I'm trying to look on this side, and I do because I tend to get overexcited when I'm talking and miss half the points that I want to make. I decided actually to put a list here together. For some reason I thought that was highly unprofessional, because if I was doing a live video, then somehow I should be very free-flowing. But actually, if I'm very free-flowing, I forget what I'm talking about. So, the biggest issue is this breakdown in connection, and we want to recreate that connection. So, I don't know about you, but I remember there was a certain point that I was convinced my husband was saying and doing the things that he was on purpose. He was actually out to get me. It didn't occur to me that, that I was believing everything that was in here, and I was taking no responsibility for my part in the breakdown in our connection. I was blaming and pointing the finger at him, and what was he doing? Well, he was on the defensive, and occasionally he would come out on the offensive, and he was mean and he was nasty, and all his bad character traits, the ones that get out of balance when we're not happy, came to the fore. He became controlling. He became a bit of a bully. I, on the other hand, I was the narky, miserable wife, something that I swore I would never be, because I saw that in my mother and I hated it. I could see that's not the way to a man's heart, but I found myself in the same situation. So let's just have a quick think about how we can reconnect with our partner, because once you build that reconnection, the communication becomes so much easier to resolve, and actually almost resolves itself. So I had a conversation with a client a few weeks ago now, and she was telling me, because she's done a lot of work on herself, and she realised that a lot of not just the relationship problem, but a lot of her interaction with the world was due to the way that she viewed herself and the way that she'd been brought up, and she needed to do some work there. So taking responsibility for the way she was feeling, she was talking about how she'd approached her husband or partner, and explained that she wanted to build a healthier communication, and she wanted him to know that she had no expectations from him. Funnily enough, he didn't take that particularly well. He listed, I don't know how many instances where she exactly had expectations from him. So, we always have expectations, and we read, whatever we read that, we shouldn't have expectations, we shouldn't make assumptions, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. We're human, we have expectations. What we need to manage are those expectations, and how do we manage those expectations in a healthy way? By creating boundaries for ourselves, so that we know that the people that are surrounding us are pretty much going to fall into the category of being able to follow our expectations or live up to our expectations. So of course we do have expectations. I have the expectation that my husband isn't off having an affair with somebody in his lunch hour. I have an expectation that he's at the restaurant with a couple of his work colleagues, for instance, because the connection that we have is such that I've made it pretty clear that having an affair is a game breaker for me personally. So anyway, reining myself back in, how can we create connection? So the very first thing that I would do, or I did myself, and it was only because I was disinterested in my relationship by this point, to be perfectly honest, completely disinterested. Stop trying to fix it. take your eye off the ball. You know, the biggest relationship breaker ever in the history of relationships is that we try to fix somebody else. We try to fix the relationship. We try to change somebody else. And how do we do that? Well, if we're talking about communication, one of the ways that we try to do that is by telling them how we're feeling, with the intention of getting them to understand how unhappy we are, so that they will do something about it, either change their behaviour or make us feel better about ourselves. And that doesn't work. So, you know, that's where expectation doesn't work for us. If I'm communicating with my husband yesterday, I was sad yesterday. I don't really know. There was no reason. Maybe it was a bit of a come down because we've just moved in. We've done so much work. We were go, and we're just about at the end, round at the last few boxes here, and I'm exhausted. So maybe it was that. I don't know. Anyway, my husband wanted to have a nice conversation. He was all cuddly. He was all, you know, he was amorous. He wanted to spend time with me, and I didn't want him near me. So instead of, you know, causing an argument, which I have to say, which I hold my hands up and I say that, you know, that's my way, or by pushing away, or by, you know, looking completely disinterested as he puts his arms around my shoulders, I actually said, you know, I'm really sad today. I don't know why. It's not, you know, it's not nothing that's, there's nothing wrong in particular. I'm not, you know, I can't put my finger on it, and that, you know, it's certainly nothing that you're doing, but I'm just not feeling, I'm feeling a bit isolated. So, you know, can you give me a bit of space? Of course he wasn't over the moon. Of course he wasn't jumping up and down saying, yeah, thanks for sharing that with me. But at least he didn't feel that I was rejecting him. At least he didn't feel that it was somehow his fault. And because I've been doing this often enough, he knows that, you know, it'll pass. And the best thing to do is just to back off, let me do my own thing, and, you know, take whatever time I need to feel what I'm feeling, and then I'm back and I'm happy and I'm bubbly and whatever else. And yesterday that was the case. By the time I'd finished dinner, put the kid, because one's away, to bed, and sort of flopped onto the sofa, already those thoughts of sadness and those sort of thoughts of whatever had been going on during the day had gone, and I was quite happy to cuddle up on the sofa and have a chat and make our plans and whatever. So, I'm just wondering if I am actually live. Yeah, okay, I am. So yeah, that's the very first thing, is stop trying to fix the relationship, or stop trying to fix your husband or your wife, depending who's watching this, or just your partner, and start looking at how you can build a relationship with yourself, how you can start, you know, instead of changing them, what can I do to change how I'm feeling? Is it going really dark? Hold on a second. Just not sure if there's a big cloud that's come over or something. Maybe I should have put some light on. And this is why I prefer doing video, because I don't mind so much if I get stuck. I can put it on to pause and then and then move through again. Anyway, I kind of lost track of my thought because I was thinking, should I go and put the light on and throw some more light into this? But no, we'll just leave it. Hide. I don't want to do that. Hide. Fixing, yeah, not fixing. But how can you be good to yourself? What's missing for you? What are you feeling at the moment? What actions can you take to look after you, so that you're not putting this pressure when you're talking about it? You're not putting that pressure out there, because at the moment, you know, if you're in that situation where the communication has kind of broken down, whichever way it's broken down, then the chances are you're not going to be able to go straight into sharing how you're feeling and getting your partner saying, yeah, great, thanks for letting me know. There's still going to be a slight defensiveness on their part. It's going to take time to break down that old habit, your habitual expectation and his or her habitual defensiveness. That doesn't go overnight. But, you know, once you start, you know, looking at other things, finding something that makes you happy, doing something that's nothing to do with your relationship. Look outside your relationship. Take up a sport, take up yoga, have a night out, make a regular night out with girlfriends. It's at the cinema, go for a pizza, go for a whatever. Ensure that you're taking care of your own social needs, you are becoming your own entertainment, you are becoming your own best friend, if you like, and you're not reliant on your partner to fulfill that. And I say that quite often. I live in Italy, and maybe it's different in other places, but quite often when I say you need to leave the house, you need to have a life outside being a mother, being an employee, or being running a business or whatever, and being a wife. You should, of course you shouldn't be anything maybe you don't want to. Maybe your idea of great fun is hiding in your bedroom with a book, which for me actually is can be it. But you could make the effort to build a life outside you and your partner. And here in Italy, that's absolutely frowned upon. Fine for the husband to go out, but for the wife, a bit less. And I'm kind of radical, because I insist at least once a week I'm out with my girlfriends, and and I'm out doing yoga, and I'm out doing this, and I'm out doing that, because it's very important for me to keep my separate identity away from my identity in my relationship. So that's something that helped me a lot, and actually one of the things, I stopped trying to fix my relationship because I was so sick and tired of my relationship. I was leaving my relationship, and that's why I turned the effort to me, and that's how things started to change. So the next thing you can do is actually start working on reconnecting, restoring that connection between you and your partner. Light-hearted things, have a bit of humour, build a bit of humour into the relationship. Have a laugh, share how your day went. Don't wait to be asked, how did your day go? You share, or you ask. And quite often I've had people say, yeah, but I ask and he doesn't answer. He doesn't ask me how my day was. Then tell him or tell her. So I'm talking a lot as if I'm talking to an exclusively female audience, and I apologise for that. My audience is not exclusively, but majority female, so I tend to get caught up in talking in the female. So don't be offended if you're a man and you're watching this on replay. But start sharing silly little things, story, as you would do with your girlfriends, your boyfriends, whatever, your friends. Silly things that happened at work, silly things that happened in the park with the kids. And the other thing that is really, really important to do when you're in this phase of misconnection or disconnection with your partner, and therefore the communication is a real struggle, is start to remember, and actually take a pen and paper and write it down. And don't do it once for 5 minutes and put it to the side, but actually make it a sort of rolling thing. Things that you appreciate about your partner. That, a list of gratitudes you have for him or her. What has he or she given you? What was it that attracted you to them in the first place? What was it that you saw that made them different to the next guy or girl that crossed your path? What was it that made your heart flutter? Remind yourself of these things, because it's really difficult. It's really easy when you're in that phase of misconnection or fear of communication. That fear. You're sitting on the sofa, you have to have a conversation. You've got a long bank holiday weekend coming up. The idea of spending that bank holiday weekend together is just unpleasant at best and pretty horrific at worst. And you're sitting on the sofa and you're thinking, okay, should we plan to do something? How am I going to say this? What's his response going to be? Oh my, and he'll probably say this, or she'll probably do this, or she'll just, she'll try and manipulate the situation, and then I'll end up feeling that, and then, he'll probably talk about how much it'll cost, and then I'll feel guilty because, I'm not earning as much as him. Or I'm talking about things that go on in my own head, have gone on in my own head, as I sat on that sofa, miserably thinking, okay, I need to start a conversation about X, Y, or Z. So get into the habit of having those silly little conversations. Guess what happened? Or, how was your day? Or what can I do to help? Yeah, that's a really powerful, what can I do to help you? And it's something that is incredibly difficult to do. And I spend a lot of time when I'm working one-on-one with clients who will come to me and they'll have a list, a bucket list of things they want from their partner that they're not receiving, whether it be sex, whether it be intimacy, whether it be communication, whether it be love, respect, attention, whether it's just going back to the way the relationship used to be, whatever it is. These things are hurting and they're ripping the relationship apart and they're ripping your heart out. But what you're not doing is you are not offering what it is you want to your partner. You're not offering that. So for instance, I had a client a while back now, I think during the summer, and she was saying that one of the biggest things that she really missed in her relationship, since it started to go wrong and since the communication had broken down, was the fact that they used to send messages to each other, just catching up, or smiley faces or little love hearts, or how's your day going, or whatever it happens to be. And she was so upset that he doesn't do this anymore. What's the solution to that? The first question I asked was, well, have you told him that it's important to you? No, was the answer. Horrifying. No, how could I tell him? We're not speaking. Hi Amber. Let me know, Amber, actually, how the quality of the video is, because I'm talking away happily to myself here, smiling at myself and waving at myself in the mirror and the computer, and I've no idea if I'm making any sense or if it's actually functioning well. I hope so. So I was talking about doing something for your partner. Is, all those things that you're expecting back from your partner. And I was telling a story about a girl I was working with during the summer, and she wanted somehow that her partner was going to, it's good and clear, fantastic, it's good and clear. And actually I'm all bouncy now, I've got somebody here, I was all chilled and relaxed, and I'm talking to myself and no one will ever watch this and it's fine. And now you're here, I'm like, oh shit, I've got to think about what I'm saying, fix my hair. Yeah, so quick recap. So she was going through this thing that she missed this connection that they had where they would just send each other messages, once a day or a couple of times a day just to check in. And since the relationship had started to go south, they didn't do that anymore. And this had been, the relationship was on the rocks for quite a long time before we started working together. But this was something that really upset her, something she missed a lot. And, so the first thing I was, thank you. I'm not going to answer you every time I see it because it completely throws me off. I'm such a man. I'm not good at multitasking. So if I start reading the comments, I'll end up just talking to you about what I'm seeing. But I'm seeing it. Thank you. I'm glad it's great. So the first thing I asked her was, well, have you told him how you feel? And she was horrified. No, of course I haven't told him because I can't, we don't have that intimacy in our conversation at the moment. I can ask him if he'll buy milk at the supermarket on the way home. I can tell him that it's his turn to pick our daughter up from the childminder, but I couldn't possibly tell him that I miss our banter on WhatsApp or whatever it happens to be. And I said, okay, yeah, no, I can understand that. When the communication is bad, it's difficult to do that. I said, okay, well, have you actually sent him any messages? And of course not. Was the answer? Of course not. So, well, why not? Well, he might react badly. He might react badly, but who's here trying to put the relationship right? Who's here in the taking that stance? The emotional strength in the relationship is yours at the moment because you're here talking to me, looking for a solution to the problem that is your relationship and the breakdown in communication, and therefore maybe it's up to you to take that first step. As the emotional leader in your marriage, you take that first step, without any expectation. So it might be that you send a message and you get nothing back, or you get something rude back, or he tells you, please don't do this because I'm at work. But, you'll never know until you've tried, and you'll never give him the opportunity to open up to you or to even respond to you, because if you're terrified and you're here doing something about it, he's just as terrified and he doesn't have the tools that you've got. So, of course, we worked for a while, and she did send him a message. And the first message she sent, luckily she'd done a lot of work because she got no response back to it. But she decided that was fine because she had no expectations. The next message she sent, he sent back something fairly curt. I'm busy, I'll speak to you later or something. The next message she sent, he sent her one back and, said, it's all going great. How's your day? She stuck at it. She didn't give up after that first silence. She didn't give up after the curt second response. She kept going. And what it did was it opened a way, not just for communication, something that she was missing, the communication via, SMS or whatever, so that she'd been missing. It also gave them something to talk about when he came home. So instead of the conversation having been, as it had been for the last 2 years, about, what they were going to have for dinner, who was going to wash the dishes, what they would watch on television, and not much else, it then gave them, something to start the conversation from. Oh, so you had a busy day. What happened? And from there, it wasn't an overnight thing, but from there it allowed that reconnection. They could start to build that sense of trust that had been broken, and fairly badly broken as well. It's still work in progress. They're still working through it, but it was, just by this process, it gave her enough to make her believe that her marriage was worth working on. It may be that, it's not going to last forever and ever and ever, or it might be that it completely transforms and it becomes something solid and, fabulous. But she could see that just by putting these small steps in place, it was enough to start making those changes, which is what I'm all about. So I'm going to put my paper on here because I've forgotten where I was. So yeah, working to restore the connection. That's something that's fundamental. The communication sort of falls back into place when the connection is there, because we're not, when there's lack of connection, that's churning in your gut isn't really a great place to start those heavy conversations, let alone any conversation at all. The other thing that I absolutely can't say enough about is listening to your partner. A lot of the time we feel that we're not listened to. A lot of the time we feel, and when I say a lot of the time, I'm kind of using myself as one of my own examples, because one of the things that I always felt was I could speak and speak and speak, and I wasn't being listened to at all. And it wasn't a case that I wasn't being listened to. It was a case that I was speaking because I wanted something back. If I tell you how unhappy I am, then you will do something about it by changing your behaviour, or you will become, I'm so codependent on your approval that you will do something to make me feel good about myself, so I'll be happy again. And that's not really, that's not the way it works. A healthy relationship's never going to come from that. A healthy relationship's going to come from, I am happy irrespective of what mood you walk through the door. Yeah, of course I can be happier when you walk through with a smile on your face and we're having a great laugh. But irrespective of what's going on in your life, I've got that gut sense that all is good in the world. And that for me comes from listening to myself first of all, but also listening to my husband or my kids or anyone else, frankly, that crosses my path. Because listening is such a dangerous thing. We listen to answer a question or to answer what somebody's saying. We're never really actively listening to hear what they're saying, to understand what they mean. So we're creating assumptions based on what what people are saying to us. gone really dark again. And really light again. It must be the sun coming in and out, and I'm not aware of it here, but maybe if I just sit forward, that's better. So yeah, listening to your partner. And what do I mean by that? If you ask him a question, how's your day? Actually listen to what he says and don't feedback. Don't be listening with that, oh, that's a shame, or oh, that's good, or that. Just let it go. It's kind of uncomfortable to start with, to not to have a response. And I'm really bad at it still. Yeah, I always... In fact, I did an interview this morning with someone, and I find it really difficult to sit quietly and let them speak and speak and speak. And, and I just sit and smile. My brain's going, what should I say? What should I say? What's the right answer? There is no right answer. I'm just listening to you because I want to hear what you've got to say. I want to connect with you. I want to teach you that it's okay to just listen to me, and I don't need you to, and this is something that men are really particularly bad at, solve my problems. I just want you to listen to me and hear me and connect with me. And so therefore, if I say, look, I'm miserable, as I did yesterday, I'm miserable. I don't want anything from you. I just want you to know that I'm miserable. Know that's why I'm not bouncing around the house and I don't have the music on full blast and I'm not particularly keen to jump into bed with you because I'm miserable. And it'll pass. And I'm just sharing that with you, and I just want you to listen to that and take that on and, go ahead and do your own stuff. It's something that, it's actually something that my girlfriends and I do quite often, is we'll sit down and we'll say, okay, for the next 20 minutes, we're just going to actively listen. And it's really uncomfortable, but it's so worth it. So yeah, that's something else that I think helps recreate the connection between you. What else have I got on my list? I had to put a list together because if I try and do it from my head, I'm talking about one thing and I can talk for 2 hours on one thing. Put their needs first, and I don't mean put their needs before your needs, but actually, show willing in that relationship. So, show willing in as much as it would be nice to do X, Y, or Z. He particularly likes eggs on toast for breakfast on a Sunday morning. Why don't I do eggs on toast? And not because you want to say, oh, thank you for doing eggs on toast, that must mean that just because you want to do it. Giving something of yourself with not expecting anything in return. Because we've taken that out, right at the beginning of this, I said, we're going to stop trying to fix the relationship. We're going to just work on connecting with each other again. And once you work through these things, it becomes fairly plain whether there's a good basis to try and resolve your issues, or whether you're really, best efforts. There's nothing left to do. You've done your path together. You've learned what you have to learn, and you can gracefully separate and find your new paths. And that's, for me, that's one of the most important things, and that's why it's so important to do this work whilst you're in the relationship, or whilst you're still fresh from the relationship, so that you can learn what you need to learn about yourself, so that you don't have to go and recreate this time and time and time again. And I've seen that unfortunately happen a lot, where you divorce with ambivalence, and the next thing you're in exactly the same relationship. You've got a different sofa, different wallpaper. Husband's got dark hair rather than blonde hair, but it's the same issue because it's your issue, and that's no fun. I've only been married once, but I've had many relationships before I got to this point, and yes, I was recreating the same mistake. I was choosing the same sort of guy time and time again. I was choosing a guy that I could wrap around my little finger, somebody that didn't stretch me either emotionally or creatively, and somebody that would never tell me, would never hold me accountable. He would just roll over and let me rule the roost, and that's not particularly useful. It certainly wasn't useful for me, because I'm manipulated, and I wasn't a great girlfriend. So yeah, where did I get to? Gratitude. Yeah, I covered gratitude. And even that goes even if you're trying to make peace with a partner because you've decided that you are separating. Because one thing that I was very clear about when I thought that I was separating from Marco was
without him, I would never have had my kids. I couldn't get much further down the line than that at certain points. I've never had my kids. I'd never had the life experiences that I had either. I'd never had the fun that I had. But at that time, I was too raw to see it. So I could keep going back to the kids, and I could keep going back to the financial security, if you like, because he did give me financial security that, or we gave each other financial security together that I couldn't necessarily sustain myself when I was on my own. So that was something that I was kind of grateful for. And I did learn a lot from him, and I'm taking myself back to that place where I didn't like him very much. I hated him, if the truth be told. I hated him. But I did learn so much from him. I learned how to say no, for instance, from him. I learned how it's nobody else's business but mine, how I'm feeling. I don't have to justify myself to anybody. As long as I'm good with me, as long as I'm good with my decisions, I don't need to do any more than that. And I learned that the hard way. I learned that because he was very good at it, and I hated it, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. Eventually I can see now how that is. And a silly example is, we both worked for the same company when we met, and I would phone in sick, and I'd be on the phone for hours telling him what I had and how upset my tummy was and my head hurt and my temperature, and blah, 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 blah. He would pick up the phone and he would say, "I'm not coming in today." And that was it. That was it. I learned so much just listening to that one conversation. Nobody ever pulled him up. No one ever thought more or less of him than they did of me. Actually, probably more of him, because he wasn't boring the pants off him with tales of woe. Finally, what have I got? Yeah, say thank you. I know it's a silly thing. Say thank you. Just for the silly bits and pieces that people offer you. I'm trying to think, my husband, I'm going back to my husband, but he's done such a lot of work around this house. He's basically walked around with a drill in his hand for 10 days, and everything I point at, he drills holes and fixes for me. And he's exhausted and he's grumpy. But the other day I said, thank you, you've worked so hard here. You've really, you've made it, you've helped us make it into a home so quickly. I wouldn't be able to do that on my own. And, it's nothing, it's the truth, but I would never normally communicate that. But just silly things. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for the cup of coffee that you've brought me. Thank you for the conversation. Or telling them what you appreciate. What you appreciate in that person. That goes such a long way. It really goes such a long way. And then finally, I'm a number 5 on my list, and I can't believe I've spoken for 45 minutes, and I'm only at number 5. So number 5 is what I'm all about: self-love. And what is self-love? Self-love is taking care of yourself and making yourself important in your own life, and making sure that you are treating yourself the way that you would like to be treated by other people. Now, it's going to be different for me, for you, for everybody, what that's going to look like in your life, and and it's going to change at different stages in your life and different times of your, in your relationship. And it's really a case of finding out what that means for you and making peace with the fact that it is a necessity. It is a necessity, because something that I discovered is, if I expect anybody to do something for me that I'm not prepared to do for myself, they don't want to do it. There is resistance, whether they're aware that I'm not prepared to do it for myself, whether I've said I'm not prepared to do this, something stupid. I read something somewhere, I think in the group, someone was saying that she was scared of spiders, and so she didn't want to go up to the roof to get the Christmas tree down, and so she expected her husband or partner to do that, and of course he didn't do it, and blah blah blah. And I kind of get that. I kind of get his resistance to it,
you don't need to say anything, but there is that feeling, why should I have to do something for you that you're not doing for yourself? So it's so important, of course, if in a normal situation you would say, well, God, I'm terrified of spiders. I'm terrified of spiders. What can I do in return? I'll put the baubles on the tree, you get the tree down. But, if you're already in that place that you're at loggerheads, then, you're not going to get that sort of normal sort of reaction from somebody who says, yeah, I know you're scared of spiders. Okay, give me till tonight and I'll go and get it. If you're already fighting and, trying to manipulate each other and trying to get one up on each other, then, yeah, the chances of getting what you want are kind of minimal. So yeah, being for you what you would like them to be for you, doing for you what you would like them to do for you. And often I'll ask myself before I ask, because I don't know how to use a drill, and I would, my response to having to drill something is, okay, I go and find a man to do it for me. It's not, I'm not going to attempt to do it. So I've got another solution. It's not me, but I pay somebody else to do it. If it's, if there are other things, we're going skiing next week and I really don't want to look all the ski stuff out. So my excuse for not looking all the ski stuff out is, I can't reach, it's too high up. Can you do it? His response to that is, bugger off, go and get a set of ladders and go and do it. Now, that's understandable, isn't it? Why would I do something for you that you're not prepared to do for yourself? And it goes back to self-love. It goes back to, what are you prepared to do for yourself? And you teach people how to treat you by the way you're treating yourself. So, taking responsibility for the things you want done is one thing, but also treating yourself the way you want to be treated. Listening to yourself, listening to what's happening in your gut, listening to what's happening in your thoughts. What are you saying to yourself? What's your heart telling you to do? Are you ignoring them? Are you going with them? Because if you're ignoring them, it's not that you're going to get anyone else to listen to them. You've set the precedent here. You're ignoring it, so why should you expect them to listen? So, be all and end all is, and I did an interview this morning, and it was called Self-Love, Necessity or Dubious Luxury. And because, I hear this all the time, I don't have time to look after myself. You don't have time to listen to your thoughts. You don't have time to check in with your body. 5 minutes. Just be a bit present in your own life. But you expect other people to be present in your life for you. You need to set that example for yourself. So yeah, that's my list of 5 things. I'm waving my hands about now. I did have a few questions that people sent me. If you've got any questions, I don't know if there's anybody still here watching. It says there are 2 people. Amber, I know that you're here, but I don't know if who else is here. So the questions that I was asked, Angelique asked me, something about getting emotional when you have to have those heavy discussions, and that for me, Susan, hi Susan, nice to see you here too. Thank you for staying quiet, because as I was saying to Amber, I should have been born a man, because I'm really not good at multitasking. And you're still here too, hi. So yeah, I was asked 2 big questions, I think. One was Angelique, and she was asking, how do you manage getting emotional when you have to have those big conversations? Because what happens for her, and I so related to it, because it held me back in, not so much in my relationships, my romantic relationships, but it held me back in my career enormously. Well, getting emotional when you feel that you're talking about something that somebody might judge you about or call you out on. Again, if I talk about my career, I was a woman working in a man's world. The men were all paid more than me. They all made it known that they were paid more than me. And on one occasion, I was brave enough to go and call my boss out on this and say, look, do I not do the same job as these guys? But I only managed to do it once in 9 years that I was working there. And it was only because the guy I actually didn't care about the guy at all. I had no connection with him at all. I didn't like him. I didn't respect him. I thought he was a slimeball. So I wasn't really invested in what he thought of me. But I went in and I had this conversation. I said, I'm not being paid enough. And, I don't believe that I'm not as good as the guys that I work with. I don't believe that I'm not working as well as the guys that I work with. But the more I was talking and the more I was thinking about it, the more emotional I was getting, and the tears were pouring down my face, and I just couldn't stop them. And there was a point during it when you feel the tears starting, and you think, I need to stop now. I need to get out now because I can't control this. And I thought, no, I'm just going to let this go. I'm just, this has to be said, and he has to see how I'm feeling about it. And I don't care because it's the only opportunity that I'm going to have to do this. So, tears streaming down my face, snot running down my face. I made my point, and yes, he listened to me and he handed me tissues and whatever. And then he probably went to the pub with all the boys and told them what an idiot I was. But my point is, I did it because I got over the idea that, that I was going to cry. It had held me back for so many years. I'm going to go in and I'm going to cry, therefore I can't do it. What will people think of me? And because I didn't care about this guy, I was like, okay, fine. So I just let it go. And nowadays I tend to, I'm renowned. I can, wherever I go, I'm in tears. I did a conference in London last year, and I stood up and I had a 20-minute slot. And I cried for 15 minutes of them. And I talked about something that was completely off the subject that I was supposed to talk about, because I looked up and I saw this group of women, and I got really, really scared, because I have something that's always going to be work in progress for me, a huge issue with trusting women. And Amber, you know a little bit about my story with my mum, which all stemmed back to my mum. And I only discovered the manipulative behaviour that my mother had been portraying for the whole of my life. During this conference, it all came to, the various things also fell into place, and I suddenly saw it for what it was. So I stood up and I burst into tears, and I continued. I just talked and talked and talked with the tears rolling down my face, and occasionally I would, and off I would go again. And at the end of it, we were there for 3 days, and the number of people that came up to me and sat next to me and gave me cuddles and said, oh my God, thank you for that. I needed to hear that. That's how I feel. I've never been able to say that. And and that's it. It's how I am. I'm emotional. I cry when I get emotional. I can't hold it in. I am sensitive. I can't watch the news. I'm sensitive. And my choices are make peace with being me. And that goes back to self-love and self-understanding, self-compassion. I am like that. I can't change it. And if I try and push it down, I get sick. That's my experience. I got to the point that I didn't want to live anymore because I had so much pushed down. I can't do that anymore. I'm not prepared to do that anymore. My life's far too wonderful to want to do that anymore. So that's why I have to make peace with these tears and these emotions. And, if you're uncomfortable with it, there's the door. And most of the time, I've not found anyone that is particularly uncomfortable with it. Or, if they are, it's their problem. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm being authentic. I'm being true to myself. I would love to stand up and be able to talk and talk from my heart and do it without any emotion at all and be frightfully professional and whatever, but I'm never going to be able to do that. So I hope, Angelique, if you do watch this, and I know you will because you're lovely, that kind of answers it. It's really about making peace with the fact that that's who you are and that's how you react in these situations. So let it go, rather than getting defensive and try to push people away so that you save face. Just, even if it's as simple as saying, I may cry during this. At least you're giving them the thumbs up. They can decide. They can put on their fixed face and they can go on with it. So yeah, that's that one. And the next question was, and I kind of spoke about this a bit in the group anyway, I can't remember, how to communicate with someone when they're defensive, or to stop them being defensive. And I was speaking in the group about this yesterday, and the woman I was speaking to, as the conversation went on, it turned out that she had been doing absolutely everything she possibly could do, because there is, let's be honest, there's a certain point, as we know, that You just have to say, look, I got into a relationship with somebody that is really not, he's not like the rest of the world. He's a narcissist. He's a thug. He's emotionally immature, and he's not prepared to do anything about it. And if that's the case, there's nothing, no amount of connection, no amount of inner work is ever going to change that. The only thing that you can do in that situation is forgive yourself for getting into a relationship with somebody that didn't serve you. And actually they did serve you, because they taught you a huge big lesson. And it does turn out to be a gift, because without that lesson, your life would have taken a completely different route. So this lady was talking about how when she asked if they could have a conversation about maybe, I can't remember what it was she said, how to spend the week, how to split the kids up over the weekend or during the summer holidays or whatever it happened to be. He didn't want to talk about it, and he would say, I don't think we need to discuss this. I don't, and everything she said, he would just close down, and then he would turn it back in her and say, I refuse to say anything, because then you'll manipulate everything I'm saying. If that's the way somebody's going to communicate with you, the only thing you can do is not engage in it. Take a step out of that, of that dynamic, and say, okay, I understand you don't want to discuss this. Okay, I'll make the decisions on X, Y, and Z, and I'll look after myself and do A, B, and C, and we don't need to discuss it anymore, because you're not. I think I wrote in the group. This is a guy who's acting like a child. He's not taking any responsibility for his feelings or his behaviour, and he's trying to turn it on somebody else. And that's, you're never going to win a discussion, or you're never going to make an open dialogue out of that one. That's a lost cause. So yeah, my big thing is, sometimes we get into relationships with people that are just sent into our lives to teach us a lesson, and then off they go. And that's absolutely fine, but don't waste your time on them. Don't waste your time trying to help them, or trying to change them, or trying to, make them see the error of their ways. They'll never change. It's not our job to change anyone else, unfortunately. And I say that as a mother of a 14-year-old. I've got a list of things I want to change about him, and it's one of the most difficult things I've got going on in my life at the moment, is having to let go and just let him be as he is and make his own mistakes, and and be here to pick up the pieces, and not be in and tell him what to do and control and whatever. So it's something that sounds great. It sounds so easy when you put it into 3 sentences, but I know that in practice, especially when you can see, if only you did X, Y, or Z, you would feel so much better, and we'd be able to have a better relationship. But if they can't see it, or they're not prepared to see it, there's nothing. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy, and maybe by taking that step back, it'll be a big enough shock that that they'll start to do their own investigation, their own inner work. But don't waste your time on it. So I think I'm pretty done. If for no other reason than I didn't bring any water with me, and I'm getting really dry. Do either of you two have any questions? No. Okay. Well, the one thing that I'd like to finish with is, if you watch it all the way to the end, what I would love to do, I mean, Amber, I know you anyway, so feel free to take me up on it, but I get to speak to you in lots of different other guises. No questions, but great. Thank you. Susan. So yeah, as I was saying, you see, there I go. You wrote something and I got all caught up in what you wrote rather than what I was thinking. Thank you. I'm glad you really enjoyed it. For anybody that's watching this on replay, as opposed to anybody that's here live, I think is what I'm saying is, I would love to connect with you. I'd love to get to know you all a bit better, and I'd love to actually, to answer the questions one-on-one. So I'm going to drop underneath, as I always do at the end of these things, my calendar. And if you want to book, absolutely get to know me, because you're in my group, and I want to see how I can make the group work better and how I can answer your questions more fully, session with me, 30 minutes, please do so. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know you. Keep doing what you're doing in the group, because you're doing a fabulous job. And I'm so happy to have you all here. And I'm so happy that this went so well in terms of the connection didn't break. I didn't go all fuzzy. And actually, I talked for an awful long time. So thank you, Amber. Thank you, Susan. And I wish you both a great day. You're both starting your day, aren't you? Because you're in the States. And I'm just about to go and have a yoga lesson now. So bye to both of you. Bye to anybody that's watching at the end. If you get any questions, of course, if you get any questions when you watch the replay, feel free to comment below, or feel free to message me. Thank you. Thank you, Amber. And you're the best member of the group. And I'll speak to you all soon. I'm going to press end broadcast now and see how it goes. So I'll see you in the group, and I'll see you round and about. Thank you so much for taking time to come and listen in. I really appreciated it. Bye to both of you, and bye to anyone else.